Hey guys! So, our next story is from the same characters, Jack and Nathan playing Glaedra and Othello. In their first campaign, which I didn't really say in the previous video, but when they went to Be Well, they found out that the cause of all the happiness was a pink crystal. They found tubes full of pink ooze, and the pink ooze has affected the water supply of the well. They realised that this liquid came from a crystal, which the drow had. This all-powerful crystal could ooze out, or in like a liquid form, gas form, solid matter, different emotions that once consumed, inhaled, or absorbed, will give you that emotion. So our heroes were then told by the drow that he's enjoying playing with these guys, and he's on a hunt looking for the other crystals. And I believe the next crystal that he was going to go for was the topaz crystal. And what they realised was literally a couple of stops away, or a whole day's ride, should I say, was Topaz Tower. So, spurred on by this sudden quest, Othello and Glaedra, they made their way to Topaz Tower. Now, a few important notes about Topaz Tower. Topaz Tower is essentially a circle city, huge, with a humongous towering mountain in the middle of it. It's basically built around a mountain, so it's very big. It's not a big mountain, but like even small mountains are huge. And inside this mountain is a ginormous, near enough the same size as the mountain itself, a topaz. So this topaz gives off spectacular, fantastic levels of magic, to the point where 100 feet radius around the city, it basically severely amplifies magic. Whatever you cast within those realms, it's super like buffed. An example that Othello and Glaedra had gotten in whilst talking to the civilians was that there was one guy who cast dancing lights for fun, and the lights were so flashy and so bright it kept the whole city awake for a whole week. Even like people who had epilepsy were obviously like not having a good time with it either. Yeah, that's the kind of extreme we're talking about. So consequently, magic is forbidden in Topaz Tower. They put two and two together when they get talking to these people. They realise that the big topaz crystal in the mountain is not what they're looking for, because the crystal that this guy, the drow, had was like small. And they also found out as well that the crystal doesn't actually give off magic, it gives off a whole different level of magic. So what they were looking for was a magical crystal that didn't give off magical energy. Glaedra, I believe, he asked if he could cast Detect Magic, and I said, just think about what could happen if you cast Detect Magic in the city. Just to help him out, I said if you were to cast Detect Magic, maybe your mind would probably explode for how much magic you are detecting. So I said that this is the kind of severity we're talking about. Not even using Detect Magic would be beneficial here. It is banned, it is a punishable offence if you were to cast any magic within the 100 radius of Topaz Tower. So with that being said, and a lot of fun I had describing all of this, and they made their way into the city where there was just so many stalls selling little tiny fragments of the big crystal in the mountains. It was quite expensive stuff, but they all gave really powerful benefits, really good souvenirs anyways. And they walked around, talked to a few people. All walks of life were walking around here. There was kind of like a uniform sort of thing going on in these villages. They're all wearing robes, so you could assume that they're all mainly mages who live in this place, probably to study the magic, study the capabilities. But long story short, they don't actually end up finding the topaz and end up losing this game, as the drow himself ends up with the topaz. Because Glaedra got arrested. And here's why. So Othello and Glaedra are walking around, being tourists, asking questions, trying to find out if anyone has a crystal that's just not giving off magical energy. I had this whole plan that there was one guy in this city who had like a family heirloom topaz, which is what the crystal that they're looking for. And he was like, they would have got more information if they had gone to that certain part of the city that I had planned, but they didn't. Instead, Othello and Glaedra went to the stalls near the entrance, and they were looking to buy some fragments of the big topaz crystal in the mountain. The lady was like, "Hello guys, would you like to buy a necklace? A necklace will add 20 foot to your spell ranges, and a ring will add +1 to all damage, magic damage and magic attacks." Glaedra was looking really excited to getting a ring and a necklace, and I believe he spent all of his cash on a ring and a necklace. But Othello, be it playing by Nathan, he didn't want to pay. Nah. Much easier if you fall onto a table, break it in half, and just pocket as many things as you could. I think he got like 19 on his check, on his sleight of hand check, and athletics to see if he could break the table. He succeeded in both anyways, and I think he stole like 3 rings and like 4 necklaces. And he was like, he got up and was like, "I'm so sorry, I'm very clumsy." Glaedra, who's used to Othello's shenanigans by now, rolled his eyes and was like, "Oh, don't worry my dear, I've got this." Picks up the table and casts Mending. And as he says, "I'll cast Mending on the table," he then pauses and goes, "No." I was like, "Too late. You just told me you cast Mending on the table." And with sheer delight, ladies and gentlemen, I say, as you cast Mending on this table, and you realise what you've done, magic just starts flashing out of this table as eyes start to grow on the table, teeth starts to grow out of the tables, like underneath the table, as it folds in on itself and becomes a mimic. It starts munching on the woman. It turns to start munching on you. Othello starts hacking at it with his sword. Glaedra can't do anything because he can't cast spells. And Glaedra gets knocked out by a guard as guards jump on this mimic and tear it apart. Othello makes a beeline for an alleyway where he's pursued by guards, but Glaedra is arrested. The next game is actually breaking Glaedra out of prison. But as Othello's running, he goes, "I cast this guy's self on myself." And I'm like, "Oh, have you not learned?" So he casts this guy's self on himself and he becomes like a huge dragonborn. Like, it's no longer an illusion. He has literally altered everything about him. And he is able to get away scot-free. Luckily, the dragonborn appearance fades away after a day, but I was going to make it a permanent thing, but that would be too game breaking. But yeah, literally, there's escape. Well, Othello escaped literally by the skin of his teeth by turning into a dragonborn. I love playing with those guys. But yeah, stay tuned for the next episode, guys. I would love to hear if you guys have any stories or anything like that. Maybe you're a DM who's experienced those kind of players. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys have any stories, please do share in the comments. I love a good laugh. I love reading stories. So yeah, peace.